I'm Simon Baker, and welcome to First Story. Today on First Story, we follow some Aboriginal business people halfway around the world.
We're introducing Aboriginal business to China at the highest level, and this has never been done before. And essentially what we're saying is Aboriginal Canada is open for business.
For over 100 years now, First Nations across Canada have been entrenched in a vicious cycle of financial dependence on the government. Now a group of forward-thinking Aboriginal business people are hoping to develop a new paradigm, and they're looking to an emerging economic superpower, China.
Hi, Calvin.
Hello.
Can you tell me a little bit about why you're going to China?
What this represents is an opportunity to solve one of the largest social welfare problems in the history of Canada.
Calvin Helene has a dream. He's trying to shift Canadian First Nations away from the cycle of financial dependence on governments by positioning Aboriginal groups directly with private sources of capital.
I think it has the potential to unleash more wealth than anything Canada has ever seen, given the huge resources involved.
Calvin Helene has a radically fresh vision of First Nations economic possibilities. His best-selling book, Dances with Dependency, Indigenous Success Through Self-Reliance, describes how Aboriginal people can be in command of their own destiny.
In Canada, Aboriginal people own or control at least a third of the landmass, which makes the control they exercise bigger than most countries in the world.
Helene is convinced that First Nations can be players on an international stage, and he's not without supporters.
I've always been a believer. This hand here, you can see it in 3 different forms.
Okay.
You can see it like this, you can see it like this, or you can see it like this. We always prefer the latter, and that's our objective in getting into all the relationships we get, is the handshake.
Chief Gibby Jacob of the Squamish Nation, along with 21 other Aboriginal business people, were invited by Calvin Helene, the Native Trade and Investment Association, and the RCI Capital Group to tell the world that Canada's First Nations are open for business. Their first stop is Beijing.
So it's a 12-hour flight from here to Beijing.
Yeah, you're right.
The purpose of this trade mission is to essentially put Aboriginal groups in Canada together with Chinese capital to develop projects, either natural resource or other business or infrastructure projects in Canada.
4 Canadian premiers and other business representatives make up the balance of the 100-person Canadian delegation. They are attending many events like the 30th anniversary of the Canada-China Business Council.
So we've essentially crashed 2 parties. That's what we've done. We're introducing Aboriginal business to China at the highest level. And this has never been done before. And essentially what we're saying is Aboriginal Canada is open for business.
Open for business and with a growing workforce.
In my community of 3,500, 60% are under 25.
Wow.
And we are the exact opposite of the non-native population outside of our reserves. So we have a great wealth of young people coming up, and that's always one of my key objectives, is to get the resource to develop the capacity of our young people.
Morley Gugu, chief of the Wakaba First Nation in Nova Scotia, recognizes that the basic needs of a community have to be a priority before economic development can flourish.
And it was hard to do development before because people wanted housing, people wanted education, their school upgraded. So we had to go back and make sure those were done first, so people would have the confidence in us to start spending money outside of social programming.
We run 140 programs for our people, and that's majority at our cost. So people say we don't pay taxes. We pay 100% of our revenue tax into program delivery and services for our members. So depends which way you're looking at it.
There is in fact a good economic argument for First Nations people to become international business players in their own right.
There's recently a study that came out of the Ottawa Living Standards Foundation, I think it's called, first time quantified the importance of educating young Aboriginal people to the same level of graduation as everybody else. By 2017, they pointed out that it would add $71 billion to the GDP of Canada. That's the carrot. The stick is what I call a demographic tsunami. We could be costing Canada about $40 billion in social welfare costs at a time when a third of the Canadian population is getting set to retire.
We want to diversify right now. We've got a lot of land. You know, we're going to develop fair chunks of it, and you know, that'll be the seed money we need to further all of our objectives and move them forward.
With the economic turmoil that's taken place and the inability for corporations to get capital, this has turned out to be a fortuitous opportunity because China is sitting on something like $2 trillion in cash reserves, and they have as their strategic goal to invest in resources that help to raise the standard of living of their population. And we have those resources in abundance in Canada.
Stay with us and find out how Aboriginals and the Chinese people can work together to raise the standard of living for both of their populations. The Aboriginal trade delegation went to China, hoping that the Chinese would commit some of its $2 trillion surplus to resource and development deals on First Nations land. It's an innovative approach that puts First Nation business on the international stage.
We give thanks for the safe journey that has brought us to our Far Eastern brothers to be able to meet and greet you and to talk business, to talk about how we can develop our economies and to be able to build so that we can leave behind a great path for our grandchildren.
Calvin Helene is in Beijing presenting his talk called Crouching Tiger, Hidden Wolf. In its message, Aboriginal Canada is open for business. But resource development projects are not the only business opportunities that First Nations are offering.
And that means ni hao.
Chief Morley Gugu has a bottled water business to present, as well as a tourism opportunity.
So we wanted to create a Mi'kmaq cultural village and a center of excellence for our culture and tradition, where it would be an actual historic tourism village, you know. On the outside it looks like tourism, on the inside it's a teaching ground for our kids, our elders.
来参加这个项目的会议，这样的话呢，特别是对这个原住民呢，他们这一块的这个做旅游、房地产的项目，特别比较感兴趣。
We're still #1 in North America for diamonds, and I still want to share that with them. There's huge oil and gas potential that we require investment on, and as well as some of the mining and mineral potential on the Canadian Shield.
Kevin Menikosh is the MLA of the Nonday in the Northwest Territories. He is representing his constituents, 90% of whom are Aboriginal.
Well, I think it's exposure of our part of Canada, which is the Northwest Territories, and it's a beautiful, vast country, and it's got lots of mineral potential, and I just like to share that with the Chinese people.
There are projects from all over Canada. For example, there's an interest in building a road from Yellowknife to Tuktoyaktuk in Northwest Territories. That's a $2 billion project. There's all kinds of minerals mining projects where Aboriginal people own or control projects within their lands.
Indian. Yeah, I'm a First Nation. First Nation? Yes.
In BC, there's a major emphasis on forestry. China needs our forest products for the huge growth that their economy has been going through.
比如说一些资源、土地、森林，所以说当地政府给他们一些优惠的政策，然后我们去和当地的酋长进行直接的沟通，可能会。
Tell me a little bit about the business opportunity.
We have purchased timber forest license 38, which is within our traditional territory. And we have a lot of wood that hasn't been harvested over the last little while because of the economy. And hopefully we will get approval from the provincial government to export part of our product, which is raw logs.
China has dramatically depleted its natural resources. Because of their massive economic development in the last few decades, the country is now dealing with high levels of air pollution, acid rain and water pollution, deforestation, and the loss of 1/5 of their agricultural land. I have to ask, do any of you have any concerns about China's or their treatment of their environment?
Well, I think everybody's concerned about their treatment of the environment. When you go there, there is so much obvious pollution. I think they're approaching 1.5 billion people now, and that's obviously why it's important for, I think, Canadian companies to go and to introduce them to state-of-the-art technology.
Nick Bressatore represents a company called TerraSphere. He's in China to help present a cutting-edge technology that the Squamish people own.
TerraSphere is a plant production system that will allow the Squamish Nation people to mass produce microgreens, strawberries, spinaches, arugulas, all herbs and more products in the future. You know, our water system that we've designed completely cleans up and grabs the water out of the air that the plants transpire. So the only water that leaves the building is in plant tissue, which is unheard of in the greenhouse industry.
Wow, really cutting edge. Representatives from the Shaanxi province in north-central China see a potential in this technology and have signed a memorandum of understanding with TerraSphere.
The scope of it is tremendous, bigger than anything that North America could possibly offer.
Have signed a MOU with the Chinese government, and the hopes is that you know, we'll get something happening here in China, and especially for the developers of the process. I think they have done something that I hope will be have the ability to travel the globe, where people who can't feed themselves because of different soil conditions and water shortages, that they will have the ability to feed their own people. I think that's, on the social side of business, I find that to be the most exciting piece.
2 more MOUs were signed with delegate members. We caught up with Calvin Helene when he returned.
The main one was with the central government, and it is a MOU to follow up on business and cultural discussions. They will come to Canada, and we will, in return, will go back to China.
Well, first trip.
Yep.
Be many more to come.
Absolutely.
I've had an opportunity to speak to several Chinese people and trying to understand where our culture comes from and where Chinese culture comes from. And that's how we get to do business, is we get to know each other, and then you build that trusting relationship, and you're looking a long term into the future. And I think that's how business should be developed between cultures and between people.
The best part for me was the dinner at the government state house. It's very rare, very few people in China even get to see that place. And we were treated like heads of state. It was quite awesome.
Clearly, First Nations are moving beyond the vicious cycle of dependency and are determined to be an economic force in their own right.
And the fact that I also think what's happening is the Aboriginal population is reaching a tipping point. Rather than waiting for somebody to take care of our problems or expecting somebody to take care of our problems, we're going to take care of our own problems. And that's clearly emerging right across the country.